Welcome to a weekly Wizardly Review. Every week we select works or content from the DM's Guild to review. This is where we break them down and see how it all fits together. We then evaluate them based on a few points. We go off of lore, difficulty in implementation, balance throughout the work, and then intrigue. And then finally we top off with some personal notes that we don't factor in. And we have a 10-star scoring system to which we base around the product or work. So, Eric, take it away.
Okay, guys. So today we are reviewing the 4 Adventures bundle that contains the Shore of Dreams and Warriors of Sehanine adventure modules that take you from levels 3 to 5 and then 5 to 7 respectively. These adventures are crafted by the amazingly talented team at Poison Potion Press. A lot of alliteration there. With the likes of Florian Emmerich, JVC Parry, and Ashley Warren as major writing contributors, and the mind-blowingly talented Raluca Marinesuc, who's making back-to-back performances in the art department.
Wow.
Just the cover art, guys, we're going to post it. It's amazing. So now we're going to be going, and we're going to be upfront and clear, sorry. Today's episode is going to be slightly differently structured. So our short review is going to be as concise as possible when looking at these 2 adventure modules to give you a solid and basic understanding of the modules, and we'll give you our rating to kind of guide you as to whether you should go and pick this bundle up yesterday.
No spoilers.
Right? But after that, we're going to be doing 2 separate full-length reviews for these adventures, as they totally deserve it. And they're probably going to have multiple parts to them as well in order to properly flesh it out and fully answer the questions that are in the objective criteria in full, and to do justice to these 2 amazing works. So, I mean, honestly, we think it requires this. Dare we say demands it. So, without further ado, let's get right into it, folks.
Absolutely.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. All right. So starting off, we're going to jump into our lore section.
First question here, Eric, is there character lore or item lore or creature lore in this module?
Okay. Trying to keep it concise. James, I'm completely at a loss on how to put this simply, honestly. Yes, there is, and a healthy amount of it. It's organized, it's concise, it's evocative, and it all has purpose. There's nothing really fluffy here. And they both just read so damn well. James?
Well, my response applies to both adventures. Absolutely, there is a bunch of lore for just about, and if not, for everything. The characters, the items, everything within these modules are all absolutely well-rounded and given great amount of love and care, and just, it's amazing. And it shows throughout the adventure, and it really represents itself well. Eric?
All right. So, my question then, is there locational lore?
Is there locational lore? Yeah. As mentioned before, I will apply my previous answer here to both modules. Again, in being concise. So, on a personal note, I do truly love the lore within the module, and on a holistic side of things, the locational lore provides a compelling soul and story to the area that paints great visuals and provides an emotional tie to the location itself. That's my thoughts. What were yours?
Damn, I couldn't have said it better myself, James. I would just add, as I like to do all the time, that reading the first 2 chapters of each module, I could close my eyes and I was there. All my senses were truly engaged, especially for me personally on the Shore of Dreams. Like the location and the culture especially is sorely underutilized in the current Wizards of the Coast materials.
Yes.
So, James?
Okay, that takes us to our next question. Is there an overall plot?
Holy smokes, Batman! Yes, as there should be. They are adventure modules after all. I will say that both modules are very streamlined. Shore of Dreams perhaps a little bit more than Warriors of Sehanine in terms of kind of like the plot and different arcs and potential avenues for different ways of playing it, as well as kind of the twists, turns, and endings that can occur. James, what are your thoughts on it?
You know what? Definitely. I'd say that within both these adventures, there is an overall plot, and the plot lines stretch across multiple levels and player actions, which I really loved. I'd love to say more, but that needs to be left for our spoiler review and the in-depth review. So what I will say in closing is the plot is compelling, entertaining, and a ride I would recommend to anyone. Hands down, Eric. Absolutely.
Man, I'm saying you're doing a good job of keeping this concise. All right, so the next question then is there a provided adventure hook for these modules?
Yes, and yes. There are 3 alternative hooks per adventure. And that's obviously to help get your group into it. In fact, these hooks even touch on different group play styles: RP, wargamers, looters and pillagers, and the map wanderer types. The hooks and the adventures themselves are written well enough that even if you wanted to sit down and start in these adventures, you could. What did you think about this one?
Man, 110%. Like, James, honestly, I believe that you got that question just dead on, square on top of the head, because this is the first time where we've actually seen something be able to do that, and like a lot of the things that we nitpick on. So, I don't know, what's next?
Our next question is, does the work have any loose ends, neat tie-offs for the lore?
Shit, man, I don't know. How am I supposed to answer this one without getting into too many spoilers? That is simply... Okay, simply there are just so many tie-offs for these adventures, or neat ways to kind of leave it up to the group and the DM to take it, honestly, wherever the hell that they want. Yeah. Which is beautiful. That's what the game's about. So, James, anything else?
Well, I found I found each one to have unique and well-written tie-offs for the lore and for the plot. In both cases, there are multiple endings. No spoilers here. And you can achieve all of these multiple endings, which really lends credence to the well-written nature of these adventures, at least in my opinion. Eric?
Yeah, 110%. Would you say then, knowing this, does it fit into any pre-established D&D lore?
Yes, in some very subtle but well-designed ways. There is hearkening to the Shao people and the island of Cahult. And the famous Baldur's Keep and Baldur's Gate. Shout back to the multi-disc set top-down strategy RPG from '98.
Woo! Yeah!
I digress. Yes, I owned it. Yes, this does fit in well with the pre-established lore within D&D, and does so quite well by referencing other locations, which is just that neat little point to tie in. Eric?
110%. Again, just to keep this short, I will wholeheartedly agree with you. We're both holding back so much. James! Take me!
Okay, so I will save us by taking us to our final question in lore. Does the lore provide realistic characters and motivations? Yeah,
Sweet.
You're welcome.
Okay, you can't do this to me, man. Okay, guys, in all honesty, yes. Both of these modules do an absolutely tremendous job of fleshing out real, lived-in locations and characters. Their motivations are grounded, for the most part, and they can be definitely relatable, and just the real feelings and thoughts that people have. So, for example, the adventure hook for Warriors of Sehanine has a very real, very worried and distraught mother, all but clawing your eyes out to help her get her children back. Makes sense to me, James.
Okay, well, you know what? I totally agree. I really do. I will add that the authors have taken the time to add influences and typical decisions or reactions, like you had just mentioned, for certain creatures, NPCs, and the like, based on the situation. This truly does, at least, again, objectively, add a wonderful tool to a DM's toolkit, and it helps flesh out the story and its realism to the nth degree. Additionally, some characters, even ones with lesser roles to play in stories, have their own character subplots. One might be greedy and abuse their standing to extort things from their subordinates. Okay, that's the most spoilery stuff you're gonna get out of me.
Yeah, man, I'm just like...
So, before I continue, we have to get to our star rating for the lore section here. And that concludes my last point. Eric, what is...
10 out of 10! It's amazing, honestly.
You know what? Yes, I wholeheartedly agree with my very eccentric friend here. I'm trying to keep this together for the both of us.
Honestly, man.
No, but I agree that it's a solid 10 out of 10 for lore.
Honestly. I think our points illustrated it enough, but just to reiterate the one main point that I think really nailed it, which is the one that you made, is because it does things that no other modules have done for us yet, which is just having lore that is not only just rich and interesting and very well grounded, but it all has a purpose. None of it is wasted, and damn, it just makes sense. It's just good.
None of it is just the frivolous, like, oh, this character once fought in a war and they're a baker in a store. Like,
Nope.
okay, what's the point of that? Is there a plot to go with that?
Yes.
No, it's none of that frivolous stuff.
And yes, there is. If there is details like that, it's not just for the sake of having it.
It's something's there.
It's
dig,
grounded.
dig.
Yep.
It's really good to dig in with these modules.
110%. I gotta pull back, guys. I love y'all, but we're gonna be seeing you in the next section, which is difficulty in implementation.
See you there.
All right, welcome back, folks. Difficulty in implementation. So, the first question I have for you, Sir James, is how much study was required for the DM?
Okay, so this is a double-edged question to answer. On one hand, and at face value, a fair bit. However, as I read through, I found myself utterly captivated by the writing, which, hats off. It's hard to get me captivated. I don't really...
We were hard as rocks! I mean...
Perhaps it's a personal note, but there is a fair amount of study required. But it is totally necessary and well worth the time, as running this straight out of the book with no prior knowledge will not do justice to the writing or what you want to bring to your table. Eric?
Honestly, I am sticking 110% to your answer on this one. But just from a glance, just from a glance, you can see that the effort that is in this is honestly at the current levels that's found in official adventure modules released by Wizards. Honestly, especially with everything that's been going on recently, I would say it's leaps and bounds beyond that.
Yeah.
So we're just going to skip this, and what's our next question?
Okay, so how much studying or note-taking would be required for players?
Okay, now I understand why. Yeah, this is a damn tough question. Damn, without going into too much of a deep dive, again, I'm trying to find ways not to. Both modules would require players to be interested enough in the settings to jot down some notes and memorize some key NPCs that will be important to furthering the plot along and assisting or assailing the party. So honestly, it depends how you want to play. They've really thought out so many different ways. But you can go as deep or as cursory as you would want to. You just might end up with different endings as a result.
Yep.
Honestly, which is cool. And also a topic, again, for the deeper discussion.
Absolutely.
Okay? So, James.
Okay, so I'll keep this one short. Note-taking will be absolutely necessary. The amount you have, depending, right? But unless you have an eidetic memory, note-taking might be helpful. So that said, all in all, not much study as it is to notes to be taken, but I do agree with your statement there, Eric, and I'll leave it off with that. So back to you.
110%. There's so much more I want to say on this, but we'll go on, folks. So, of the charts, tables, and guidelines provided, if there were any, were they beneficial to the DM and players?
Okay, first off, there were plenty of charts and guides provided. Were they helpful? Beyond belief. when going through this, the guidelines and tables provide a necessary and very important information, as well as wonderful flavor and design to the adventure. Once again, I'll keep it short and leave it there. Solid thumbs up for me. Eric?
Starting to sound like a broken record here, people, but it's just honestly, this has really blown us away. Couldn't agree with you more. 120%. What else do we got?
Okay, the next question we would have here is, what was the level of in-game difficulty?
Okay, now honestly, the answer to this one, it really depends on how you would like to choose to play both modules. As we mentioned prior, they did do a great job of providing payoffs for how people choose to play the game. But regardless of how you choose, there's going to be some heavy lifting in the RP department, just because of the rich story. So if you want to use RP and some guile, there's going to be some hard fights. If your answer to "How are you?" is "Taste my axe, weakling!" Like, what else can I say? Like, it's a healthy challenge with some forgiveness to it, as it wants people to be able to get through the story fully. And honestly, I can respect that. Your thoughts, James?
You know what? Definitely. I believe these modules are well balanced for in-game difficulty. Especially if you followed the level guidelines provided, 3rd to 5th level for Warriors of Sehanine, and 5th to 7th for Shore of Dreams. The difficulty, what I found, was well-paced and fair across the board. Some of the random encounters, should the dice not be in your favor, could get hairy. However, that is always something a DM could fudge just a little bit behind the screen, here and there. So much for me keeping things short here. So, you know what? Let's keep going. This was a long question.
It's hard, man. It's so hard. Okay, so my next question then to you, James, is how was integrating this work into pre-existing campaigns or worlds?
So we talked about this a little bit before, but I'd say the integration of these works is fairly easy to do. You may want to start a session with a summons to get the group to stumble across either location, depending on which one you were playing. However, altogether, you could just sit down, take a table vote or what have you, and roll straight into these adventures, whichever one you and your table choose. The adventure hooks also lend great credence to this. Eric?
Man, 110%, guys. I just did have another few things to add on this one on my head, but I'm just going to keep it for later. Okay, so what else we got, James?
Okay. Who or what type of party was this geared towards, and how hard is it to mesh into other group types? Kind of a dual question here.
Gotcha. You're trying to get me killed by wargamers again. Gotcha. Okay, so personally, I thought that they did a very serviceable job here, honestly, out of a lot of the things that we reviewed, for trying to account for the 3 main different styles of play and the pillars of play in D&D, and the types of players that go along with that, by giving different sort of plot lines, encounters, and ways that you can overall kind of attack it. So people who like to RP and focus on the story will definitely be easy to convince to pick this up, and even some wargamers, you know, and I hate seeming to make them out that there's some sort of brutes that don't like story, but even the wargamers are going to be really drawn to this because there's some real good battles. So James,
you know what, to build on that, I'd say the authors and the design of these adventures have been made flexible enough to cover majority of play styles, like you had pointed out, wargamers, RP, map wanderers. But I must concede that this is definitely geared more towards RP players. But that's not to say wargamers, map wanderers, murder hobos even, couldn't enjoy these. I believe everyone could. You just kind of have to tweak where you're playing. But there is plenty of combat, so fear not. Eric?
Yeah, so then my question is, what was the payoff in and out of game then?
Okay, attempt number, I lost count on keeping things short.
Straight up, man.
Huge. Straight up and down, great payoff. Gear, loot, fame, and the like. Out of game, learning your class, better understanding of how to manage large encounters, spoilers, sort of. and different tactical styles of play. You know what? That's as short as I can go. Eric, don't go.
Yeah, honestly, guys, not to be all like depresso about this, but I gotta save it for later, okay? But there's definitely a lot here to talk about. And just in general, there's a lot here for everyone. So, James.
Okay, so finally, is this work able to be a plug and play? I think we've already answered this.
Yes. It does require study, but literally all of the materials are provided to you, and they go above and beyond with the stat blocks, the cutouts, handouts, maps, tokens. It's almost entirely self-contained. James.
You know what? Like you said, simply put, yes and no. Moderately skilled to veteran groups or DMs could definitely run this right off the bat. For less experienced groups and DMs, I would recommend truly absorbing the content on your own time and kind of play through it in your head. You know, as you read through it, you just kind of keep going with it. Feel it out, and you should do perfectly fine. Give it a go, and as a side note, remember, as a DM, if it's too much, there is no shame in stepping away from a module and coming back later. Not that I think these modules would encourage such a reaction, but if it ever did occur, these modules are open enough that I think you could definitely do something like that.
110%. And that's why, for us, the difficulty in implementation, there was not overly difficult. And that's going to bring us to our wizardly rating for difficulty in implementation. So, James, what do we got for it this time? I yelled out last time, and I ruined it, so this one is rightfully yours.
Let's go 4.25 plus 4.25 brings us to an 8.5.
Okay.
I just did a long roundabout way to try and just get your facial reaction to hear before. No, I give it I give it a solid 8.5 out of 10 here.
I completely agree with you. In fact, you know, I wanted to kind of go for a 9, but you know, some of those points that you made just at the end here, you know, I didn't really, you know, you always have that nice other angle that kind of, you know, complements, you know, sometimes when I get excited and I just focus on a really good point without maybe looking at some of the more critical aspects of it. So I agree with you in terms of the requirements for there to be some sort of experience at the table to make it easier. It is a little bit more difficult if that's not there, as well as what you said about the different play styles and maybe just the modules themselves, and like if you're like up to it, and if you're really, you know, able to, and you hit some bumps along the way. So I agree with you. 8.5 out of 10 is still a very solid, really well executed thing, but with just a couple of those caveats. James, to round us out. Okay,
so to round us out, I always try and mention this, is that the higher your score gets, the easier it is for points to get taken off because of just how the mathematics in these situations works. It happens for like anyone who does statistics in this sort of form. So please don't take that as a dig or a bad point. 8.5 out of 10. If 5 is the average work on the DMs Guild, 8.5 is huge leaps and bounds above it.
Above average, absolutely. So, but it's not perfect, but it is above average.
Absolutely. So thank you very much for following us through the difficulty in implementation, and we will see you in Balance.
Go.
Welcome to Balance. Okay, so our first question here in Balance is one of our favorite ones, and it's going to make your head just like tea kettle. Is the lore balanced within the work?
I'm speechless, folks. Honestly. Again, like at the start, James.
I got you. Okay. Yes, it is balanced. To elaborate a smidgen beyond that, the lore balances out the combat and the adventure in its entirety. The lore explains who, what, where, when, why, and how. Like back in 4th grade English, those are key points to take note of in stories and so much more, especially in today's world. These adventures truly touch and explain each of those carefully and eloquently. How was that for you, Eric?
All right, so were the combat or non-combat situations balanced?
I do believe my answer is yes. Yes, the combat was exceptionally well balanced. The unique creatures and their abilities matched the CR ratings and the story itself. Once again, as you say, it leans across all 4 pillars of play. So, Eric?
Just try and keep it just 110%, James. Just 110%.
Okay. So, while I let you compose, I'm going to ask you the question, were the mechanics of fights, encounters, items, and creatures balanced and flexible within the game?
All right. I would say that they were. They're flexible, and good care was taken in crafting the encounters. But there is still potential, depending on, kind of roles that could happen, for things to get a little bit out of hand.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, honestly, that's D&D. How about you, James? What did you think?
You know what? I mentioned it previously, and I will do so again. I love hearing myself talk sometimes. And some things, based upon how the dice could go, could get a little squirrely. However, overall, the encounters, loot, and such forth was all very well balanced and given solid motivation for occurring instead of DM decrees. So I like how that kind of works itself in there. What's next, Eric?
All right, then just a simple question of, is the reward to the in-game difficulty ratio appropriate for the modules?
Okay, without breaking down each item, loot drop, and what you have, I'll simply say yes. I will breathe and be zen for the both of us, and I will leave this one up to you.
Up to me? Well, if it's up to me, I'm going to say we're saving it for the full review. See you guys later. Okay, James.
Hashtag cop-out. Final question and balance. Is the work itself balanced within the 4 pillars?
Dude, seriously. Like, you can't... Okay. Guys, I have a really hard time not diving into this question. In short, honestly, there hasn't been one that's come this damn close to perfect for this criteria that we've reviewed yet.
Yep.
And that is saying something. James.
You know what? I really do agree with you. This is one of our new questions that we've integrated into our scripts here. And as we continue to revise and hone our criteria, I am really glad to announce that one of the first times we are answering it, I can say yes and jump us straight into our score.
All right. With that, okay, our wizardly rating, goodness, my brain almost farted on that one. Our wizardly rating, folks, for balance, first time ever, 9 out of 10.
It was extremely well balanced. It's, from writing our own module now, we understand how difficult it is to balance things. And when it comes to like custom creatures,
right?
That is a talent.
Unique NPCs.
Absolutely.
All of these things that like, and it's not just the math side of things, guys.
No.
It's balancing it all with the narrative and the themes and and this is honestly one of the best that I've seen. It feels coherent. It feels like a movie. And when you translate it to your table, it translates the way that, that's one of the things, right? Sometimes the road to hell can be paved with good intentions. Rise of Skywalker, all the sequels.
Last Jedi.
But this is where something on paper and on table is pretty darn equal. And that goes with our difficulty of implementation, mind you. But this is where the balance really came and outshined that.
Absolutely.
For the first time in a like that we've ever seen.
Yeah.
So just honestly.
Absolutely. And you know what? My final point before we jump into our intrigue section is one of the other things that I want to put out there is, for everyone to be able to appreciate when they see it in the module is character dialogue balanced with motivation in the story plus describing the narrative without just being yes, this happened and everything needs to happen like this so things can go right for you and I will reward you with this. It is extremely difficult to balance those nuances plus combat plus. So
Couldn't agree more.
amazing, fantastic work here.
It's hard not to just dive into it.
It is.
Yes.
We'll see you in Intrigue.
Thank you.
Welcome to Intrigue and Player Draw. So, what about this product caught your eye? I swear to God, if you say the art.
Well, I don't want to keep stealing the show okay, on this question. But the first 5 seconds, I looked at the handout pages for both modules.
Mm-hmm.
I literally almost over the phone with you. Remember, we were like, right?
Yes.
And we were sharing screen, all that, and like, just to keep it plain and simple, the art is just straight up next level. Wizards would be lucky to hire the artists. James.
You know what? I agree. I've seen modules and adventures that provide neat things for groups and players to check out. However, and perhaps this is due to a limited exposure on my part, but the cutouts and the doodads that accompany this module are phenomenal and add a nice flavor and life to the module. Eric, what's our next question?
Okay, so the next one that comes after that is just when looking through the product information, what told you that it was right for your table?
By the divine. How do I answer this without going into spoilers or just simply exploding? I think I've been doing a good job so far, not just bursting.
I haven't.
First off, the art, the adventure background, and then the hooks. Simply one page after another, it captivated me, and I knew the style of writing and the story itself sat neatly in the RP corner Eric and I are both sat neatly in. What were your thoughts on this one?
Honestly, like I said, alluded to earlier, I should say, the first minute over the phone with you, I knew we were going to be running this at some point.
Absolutely.
So I'll just see you guys in the full review, okay? James.
Absolutely. You know what? I agree. So I'll move us along to our next question. Last question before our final score.
Okay.
Would you recommend this product?
Do it, James.
Well, there it is, folks. Lord Eric hath demanded, go forth and follow his decree. Absolutely. So, to kind of give ourselves a few more words than the 2-syllable do it. Sorry, do it.
I'll give you 2 digits. 2 digits. Think about that, guys. 10 out of 10.
So now that we have effectively burst the eardrums of all of our viewers, I say our final score here is a 9.5 out of 10. Ermigerd, it's amazing.
Amazing, guys. Honestly,
Truly phenomenal.
if anything, we're just pissed that we couldn't explain this to you guys earlier. But the last thing I want to add on to this too is definitely you guys should have picked this up yesterday, but it constantly goes on sale, usually is in bundles, but as it stands, last time I remember checking, both of these are like $5.99. It's kind of a little bit, it kind of, you remember, I don't know if any of you guys, probably, maybe, if you guys have played World of Warcraft, you know those dudes who go in the auction house and like undercut horribly and like destroy the market for amazingly valuable items? That's kind of what this does. But I love you guys. And you know what? At the end of the day, it would really compel people to pick this up because, honest to God, what you're getting in terms of the value for your money here, for on all accounts, art, like even just the layout, it's clean, it's sexy, and it's evocative, and it's got the themes going with it, and then not to mention just the story, and just.
I think that's our one allotted F-bomb for the channel per day.
I sorry, guys. I'm really trying here.
Oh no. That's perfectly fine. I agree. This. Honestly,
I've never been this turned up.
mind-blowing.
I've never been this turned up about something, bro.
No, and it's,
I've been excited. I've been loving stuff, but this one, like, I can't. Like, all right, yeah, just
truly phenomenal. I'd highly recommend picking it up. Shout out to all the amazing people that have worked on this.
yes.
It's well worth it. Even if you don't end up playing it, using tidbits and pulling from it for certain narrative aspects, or just learning how to DM by reading through this.
I'm trying to hold it in, guys. I'm trying.
Before Eric
At
explodes.
the end of the day, all I'm gonna say is one thing: fuck objective criteria, because it was killing me. I'm trying to be unbiased here. You'll see me in the full review where I unleash the powers of objectivity.
So, before we depart, are we going to be doing this one sitting down right here, or is the full-length reviews going to be over our new web format?
We're going to be doing it over the new web format because we can then show you exactly the things that have set us off.
Absolutely.
Just to put it easily, and to just showcase the amazing, like, it's just a beautiful, it's almost like a work of art, honestly, the module itself.
Yep.
So, Florian Emmerich has just been really an amazing person to work with in our email conversations, and we are given a great deal of access to showcase a lot of the material, and we're going to be doing that because it is absolutely to die for. So we will be seeing you there for that full length, in-depth screen sharing experience, shall we say. Oh right, the usual plugs, sorry. You can go pick this up and check it out in the links below, as well as supporting James and I via using our affiliate links as well. Every little bit helps, and the main way to support our channel and to help us get through these tough times is to go take a look at our Patreon. We are waiting for some wizards to join us so that you can get some special perks along the way and help us buy some coffee and maybe put some gas in the tank for when we're able to meet,
Drive to and fro.
once again. So,
and you know what? $12 on the DM's Guild gets you both of these modules. Absolutely well worth it. I mean, that's what it's kind of rounded out to.
yeah, honestly. And it's going to be taking you from levels 3 all the way to 7 as a result.
Yep.
If you guys put them together.
Absolutely.
So, without further ado,
We will see you through the rift.